Hello, I'm Sally-Ann Ashley. I'm a UK-based abstract artist, and I also run a course for artists and creatives called Creative Shift. Creative Shift is a 10-week program based on my own creative practice of navigating the shifts in my work. Each time I become stuck in the studio or frustrated, I now have a framework that I can apply each time my work evolves. I've now shared my framework with many artists and witnessed numerous shifts on both the personal and practical level. I hear artists talking about how free they feel in their work, how much more confident they feel, how courageous they are in the studio. So if you're wondering if creative shifts for you this year, I've interviewed some previous course members and asked them to share a little bit about their experience on the course and how it impacted their practice, in the hope that it'll answer some questions that you have. I hope you enjoy the videos. And if you have any questions, please contact me on the links below. Thank you. Today I'm chatting with Louise Grant. Louise joined me on Creative Shift earlier this year, and I've invited her here today to share a little bit about her experience and talk about how the course has impacted her practice, both then and now. So hi, Louise. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Hi there. Lovely to be here.
So if we could just start if you could tell me a little bit about your creative practice and how long you've been creating for.
Okay, so I am a mixed media artist. I love acrylic paint and I love collage. And I think probably most of my inspiration comes from the Scottish landscape. Just really local places where I walk my dog, and even sometimes my own garden, which isn't very big, but it does have fir trees in. So that's something that I really like. And I have been painting for about 2 years. I really enjoyed art at school. And in fact, my art teacher at school was also my dad. So that was interesting. And it meant that we always had lots of creative opportunities at home and lots of free art lessons when we were children, which was great. And then I sort of gave up art for a long time. And it's not actually my full-time job. I'm a children's doctor for a large part of the week. And maybe about 2 years ago, just when I recovered from a horrible episode of long COVID, I decided that there seemed to be something missing from my life. And I felt that that was probably having a creative practice. So that's when I decided to get some paint and paintbrushes. And I have painted most weeks since then. So
Oh, wow. Amazing.
that's been good. Haven't
Okay.
looked back.
And so what drew you to Creative Shift?
I saw you talking about it on Instagram, and I heard you say it's not a practical course, it's very introspective. And I thought, that sounds like something I really need at the moment, because I had a couple of questions about my art that I wanted to work through, and it sounded like the right sort of course to help me do that.
Okay. And so what was your experience of the course?
It was great, actually. I really loved it. I was expecting to like it, but I actually really loved it.
Amazing.
Yeah. We worked through our questions. With yourself as the coach, which was great, and with a couple of other helpers as well in the group. We did mind maps. We thought about how our art and our lives were entangled. It was just really good. It was really nice actually having the other artists in the group as well, because something that really surprised me was I wasn't expecting them to be so interested in my questions, but they were, and everybody was very supportive of each other and very friendly. And yeah, people were just really interested in everybody else, and gave advice, and sort of, I think one of my questions, really the answer came from another member in the group who pointed me in the direction of a book that I should read. So that was great.
Out of interest, and you don't have to share, but what was your question to yourself?
I was hoping you would ask me that, actually.
Oh.
So I noticed that the first question was that I'd noticed that my art was becoming more abstract. And I wasn't sure what to do about that. So up until then, I'd been painting not terribly realistic, quite expressive, quite loose landscapes, but they were becoming more abstract. I wasn't sure what to make of that. And I didn't know if it was wise, and I didn't know whether to allow it. These are all things that I find hilarious now, but before the course, I didn't know what to do about that. So that was one of my questions. What am I going to do with this feeling that I want to paint in a more abstract way? My second question, and I apologize to all the artists out here that I even considered this. I was starting to hatch a plan to retire early in a few years and become a full-time artist. But my problem with that was I was starting to feel very guilty about it. I wondered if maybe that was a selfish plan. And there was a voice in my head saying, but you've got quite a serious, important job, and art's quite frivolous, and you're just doing this for yourself. So I felt guilty, and I didn't know whether to continue to make those plans or not. And so that was another thing that I wanted to work through.
Okay, and just for those listening or watching this video who might think, yes, I'm thinking that, would you mind sharing what book another course member shared with you that helped you?
Yes, it was Your Brain on Art. I can't remember the author, unfortunately, but so this was really my shift, really. Part of my shift was that I realized that art is very important. It's not a frivolous thing. It's very important for health. Whether you are looking at art or whether you're making art, it's important for your life, for your health, for your well-being. I came to the conclusion that art is medicine.
Amazing.
And so I've decided that, yeah, that is a very good plan, and I need to go forward with that.
Okay, so how did, I mean, that sounds amazing. I love your shift, but how did the course help you to do that? How, like, we shared a number of tools over the weeks. Was there anything in particular that stood out for you that helped you?
Yes, so very early on, we did a lot of sort of mind mapping. I can't remember if that's exactly what we called it. And the things that came out of that were amazing. And we did a lot of journaling. So I'm still journaling.
Okay.
And I actually, very early on in the course, maybe after just 2 or 3 weeks, I started to joke, right? That's me, had my shift now, I can go home, because it was just so helpful. And then for the rest of the weeks, I just really enjoyed it, because I felt like I'm relaxed now. I know what I'm doing. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay. And so roughly how many hours? I mean, you said you were working, and obviously we have busy lives. How many hours did you allocate to the course per week, would you say?
So on a Monday, that was the day that the new task for the week came out. I would set aside about an hour, used to only take me about an hour, to write my notes and have a think about, what we're going to be looking at that week. And then it just sort of stayed in my head all week. So I would go about my usual business, and I would be emptying the dishwasher, and I'd be thinking, oh, that patterned mug looks very nice next to that plain mug. Or I would be hanging out the washing, and I'd be thinking, oh, that ochre cardigan looks very nice next to those indigo jeans. That's quite a nice color palette. So it would be in my head for the rest of the week without me having to really set aside time for it after that initial power hour that I had at the beginning of the week. And then at the end of the week, we would have our live call. And that was probably on average about 90 minutes that we spent on that. So an hour at the beginning of the week, 90 minutes live call, and then just bits and bobs in between. And it was really easy to fit in with the rest of my life.
I think that's what's really interesting about creative shift as a kind of as a structure, as a framework, or as a concept, that the tools that I share, although I share them in that process of, delivering material each week, I did say many times throughout the course, this is not a linear process. Once you raise your awareness to this, once you become more mindful about it, it's like you say, when I'm emptying the dishwasher, what am I noticing? When I'm doing this, how am I feeling? How would these all filter out into the studio sort of thing, into your creative time? So it's kind of like you say, you can be quite intuitive with it once you've kind of absorbed the content or absorbed the teachings that I share. They become part of your practice. So I'm just curious, because you said, oh, I had my shift right really early on, and then it was like, oh, so what does your studio sort of practice look like now? Like when you go in, what are you sort of thinking? Are there any of those tools coming through for you, or how does that look in a practical sense?
So I would say that I am much more comfortable with being uncomfortable now. So if I do something new, in the past, I would have thought, no, I don't like that, paint over it quite quickly. Now I'm thinking, oh, something about this is making me uncomfortable. I didn't even notice I was saying this, but my husband said the other day, you're always saying that now. Something about this thing is making me feel uncomfortable. And I would know that it was because I'd tried something new, but I wouldn't necessarily know why I was feeling slightly uncomfortable. So now I know two things. One, leave it for a bit just to see how you feel and come back to it. Number two, if I'm very uncomfortable or I'm quite stuck, I will go and journal in my specific art journal and often find the answer that way.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So that that means you're sort of allowing yourself to do those things first and then kind of reflect on it afterwards.
Yeah.
Would you say, because I can only imagine that by allowing yourself to do that, that's pushed your allowed you to progress in your painting practice?
Definitely.
So because that's when new things come up, isn't it? So is that been the case?
Yeah, and that actually sort of works in with my other shift that I had, the one about the abstract work. I realized that my day job is very thinky. I'm in my head a lot of the time. I have to plan things. I'm quite scheduled. There isn't a lot of room for making mistakes. And the reason that I love abstract art is I can get out of my head, into my body, be a lot more intuitive. I do still, because I am quite a planner, I do plan the start of my paintings, often as the composition. I like to sort of plan that at the start, but I no longer need to know what the painting is going to look like at the end. I can just go with it. So yeah, definitely that's allowed me to make quite a lot of progress.
Okay. And would you say your work's very different now then to when you started the course?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
interesting.
I would say it was. I would say it's bolder, and I also understand why I'm doing certain things as well, and why I like a very simple, bold composition. And it's that thing again of getting out of your head and into your body and feeling grounded. it just all appeals to me.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing there is a much more kind of confident way of working.
Definitely.
Firstly, more accepting of yourself and these
Mm.
ways that you want to express, and then in that acceptance comes the confidence of, okay, I'm okay with this. Is that?
Definitely, yeah. And in fact, when I look back at my original questions, I think, why was I even worried about those things?
Yeah. It's crazy, isn't it? And actually, although creative shift feels like a chunk of time, it's this 10 weeks, it's nothing really. It's like these tools that you have now are for life. You
Yeah,
can keep employing them,
absolutely.
and like you say, now you're like, oh, why did I even have those questions?
Yeah.
And it's not really a very long, stretch of time for your mindset to shift so dramatically.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so if there's anybody out there watching this video and wondering if creative shift is for them next year, what advice would you give to them?
I would say if you have some questions you would like to work through, if you would like to know how your life and your art sort of intertwine and how they affect each other, if you maybe want to talk about a bunch of touchy-feely things with fellow artists, I would say go for it. Yeah, definitely. And also, I made a friend during Creative Shift, another artist who lives quite near me. I never met her before. We've met up in person now. So you never know what might happen.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Good for you. That feels great all round with your work moving on and just this whole kind of deeper understanding of your whole process. So amazing. Well, Louise, thank you so much for sharing that with me today. It's lovely to see you again. And
Thank
yeah,
you.
see you soon.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.